President-elect Joe Biden wants to bridge the partisan divide as he begins his term in January. But nearly 4 in 5 Americans are skeptical the relationship between Republicans and Democrats will get better in the new year. Pew's latest poll from November on partisanship shows just 21% of Americans think relations among the two major parties in Washington will get better. About 41% of people think it will remain the same, and 37% say the divide will only get worse. We can see that political divide play out in our daily lives, whether it's conversations online or at the holiday dinner table with relatives. Some, like Professor Loretta Ross, are fearful of what they see as a growing trend of publicly shaming individuals with whom we disagree. Instead, she says she's come up with a better solution. What if instead of calling people out, we called them in? That's the question Ross wants to pose to her students as she continues her lifelong fight for human rights. Loretta joins me now from Atlanta. She's a visiting associate professor for the program for the study of women and gender at Smith College and has been an activist helping women of color fight for reproductive justice for more than 50 years. Professor Ross, welcome. It's great to have you with us. How do you believe so-called call-out culture actually hurts the fight for equal rights?
Well, I think when people use their rage to talk to people instead of respect and joy, that you make people fearful, first of all, of wanting to engage with you. They feel that you're criticizing them, so they get so defensive, and often they even double down on their beliefs because they don't like being publicly shamed. No one likes being publicly shamed, even if they are in the wrong. And sometimes call-outs happen when people have done nothing wrong, but they simply disagree with you. And so we really need to lower the temperature, take a deep breath, self-assess whether we're ready to help somebody else grow, but also not expect just because we offer them new information that they're in a place to receive it.
So what's an example of calling somebody in? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, you got to be self-aware. Understand why are you doing it, and make sure that love and respect is at the top of your head and your heart instead of anger and rage. But you can start it with some startup sentences like, I beg your pardon, when you said that, I'm not sure if I heard you the way you meant me to hear you. Or, you know, when you use that word we don't use that much anymore, could we go out and have a cup of coffee and talk about the latest word that people use now? Because I don't think you meant to offend anybody, but I want to help you and help myself understand more of what you actually meant.
And so how do you believe that we've gotten to a point where we've stopped calling people in, where we seem to be driven by, you know, as you put it, anger, that we lead with anger? How have we gotten to this place?
Well, you have to remember the original definition of calling out is what killed Alexander Hamilton. So this is not new behavior. What is different is how bad news speeds through the internet so that people actually pile on to other people, usually strangers, performing some kind of moral outrage, blowing somebody else's life up, and while the person's left shattered, the group has gone on to the next available target. And so we really have to question, why are we choosing to make the world meaner than it has to be? And do you really want to be that person and walk through the world that way and get an internet reputation as being the wolf looking for the next prey, as opposed to someone you'd like to talk to? Because you make people afraid to speak up if you're the call-out king or queen.
And you say that it especially bothers you when people get called out for things that they did as teenagers or many, many years ago, because you say, you know, people grow and learn and change, and you see that as unfair, correct?
Well, I'm old enough to be thankful that there weren't video cameras around when I was a stupid teenager, because I did a lot of stuff that I regret, and I still do things that I regret. But right now we have people with the cell phone so quick to snap a video of someone like a teenage celebrity who's out shopping with her mother who doesn't want to be videotaped, and yet people think that her life is their public property or something like that. And sometimes people do crazy and stupid things when they're young, but I don't think they should be punished for it decades later. And I believe that intent matters as much as impact. And so if you step on my toe and you didn't intend it, I'm going to have a different reaction than if you did it on purpose. And so this overstatement of harm, only looking at impact, I think is wrong because you have to give people the benefit of the doubt.
And so, do you view the act of calling someone in as something that's primarily best done for conversation among peers, or can it work when there is an unbalanced power dynamic in play? For example, how does an activist who is otherwise an everyday citizen make his or her case to an elected official?
Oh, I definitely believe in calling people out who aren't being responsible for the oath that they've sworn and the people that they're supposed to serve. And if they're misleading or misinforming people, I have no problems calling out people like Trump, for example, because I think he has disgraced the office of the presidency. And not that he listened to me, but I have no interest in calling him in the first place. But most calling out is done sideways, not punching up or punching down. We're usually calling out people who have the same power that we have, even if we, even if we know that, because most of the time we're just calling out total strangers and we don't even know the effects of what we're doing. But if you look at teenage suicides through bullying over the internet, we all should be concerned about that because kids are getting called out for stuff and they don't have the maturity not to think that this is the worst day they'll ever have in their lives.
Professor Loretta Ross, thanks for being with us. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me on your show.